Welcome back, it's me, Lou. I'm here for another action figure unboxing and review. Today from Hasbro in their Marvel Legends series, we are featuring the Spider-Man 2 Gamerverse Venom. Alright, so today is May 27th, 2025. I bought this figure recently through Amazon here in the United States. It retailed for around $59. Which seems pretty pricey, but let me tell you right now, this figure is worth every penny. When I first saw marketing photos of this figure months ago, my first thought was, this figure looks insane. And as soon as I got this in the mail and took it out of the mailer box, I was like, this thing looks more insane than I could have imagined. Gigantic is the word I'm looking for. This figure is gigantic. It's a beast. It's one of the tallest Marvel Legends action figures, outside of the crowdfunded like Galactus or the Sentinel. This thing is amazing. For some people, this might be, the one definitive Venom figure they need in their collection. Once you have this, you might not need another Venom figure ever again. I know that's a bold statement, but believe me, this figure really, really impresses. As you can see, you get a lot of extra accessories. You get the alternate head with the lashing tongue coming out. You kind of have the slimy saliva effect they could put inside of the mouth. You have a pair of fists, and then you kind of have the symbiote ooze kind of like running off of his arm right there. Some nice character artwork from the video game. And then we have more images of the game here, or at least at what I believe to be either marketing or concept imagery. So Venom, powered by an extraterrestrial symbiote, the relentless villain Venom threatens all of New York and pushes Peter Parker and Miles Morales to the very limit. Gorgeous artwork right here. It really embodies the figure and the size of the figure. You just look at this image, and Miles and Peter, they're just dwarfed by this gigantic, massive symbiote. All right, so let's take this guy out and get started. Again, I got this here in the United States through Amazon, and it retailed for I think maybe like $59, which is a lot of money, but like I said, believe you me, this figure is worth every penny. If you're a longtime viewer of my channel, you'll know that I'm a big fan of Venom. I'm always reviewing all sorts of Venom action figures, and this is the one I really wanted to get my hands on because it's a beast. This thing is gigantic. Alright, so let's set this against a white background so you can see it better. Alright, so here's the first accessory. This is the alternate hand. You can swap out one of the hands and attach this. It's kind of like the symbiote ooze. You can like wrap it around another figure, for example. You can pretend the figure is ensnared by the ooze or the symbiote. You get alternate hand options, and these are fists. Big, giant, meaty fists. Now, this is the one accessory you do not want to lose. This is the, it's kind of like the saliva effect. If you want to make Venom look like he's all drooling and slobbering over his enemies. And then there's the alternate portrait, which we have right here. Let's get into focus. Give me a minute. There you go. What's a Venom figure without the tongue coming out? And then for this, like I said, this is the saliva effect. You kind of like thread it through, and then you can put it inside of his mouth. This is really, really cool. Whoever thought of this at Hasbro should get a raise. It's brilliant. It's disgusting, and it's completely what you'd expect out of Venom. It looks so, so wild. It's all the saliva just coming off of his teeth, and it's cool. I'm surprised it took us this long to get an accessory like this. It looks amazing. The only thing that could have made this figure better is if the jaw was hinged. and was movable. But in this case, you know, I don't mind. You're getting this wild effect for the tongue lashing head. And here we go. We have the gigantic Venom figure. It's so tall, it does not fit. The entirety of the figure does not fit underneath my camera unless I go like this. And to give you an idea of the size of the figure, here's a ruler. And the figure measures in at 10.5 inches. This thing is incredible. It's gigantic. Now, I've said this once or twice before in other videos, but there's a part of me that kind of wishes Hasbro would just kill off the Marvel Legends line and just start all over. I know that's kind of blasphemy for some people, but the way I look at it is that for me, it's like I would love if they just killed off Marvel Legends and just start from the ground up. And the first thing I'd want them to do is to scale the figures at a larger size. You know, much like the McFarlane figures. You know, McFarlane, their action figures are about a 1/10 scale. Whereas, you know, the average Marvel Legends figure, I think, is like 1/12. And that equates to about a 6-inch action figure. Whereas the McFarlane figures are anywhere between like maybe 7.5 to 8 inches. And I would love it if the Marvel figures were just scaled up to this size, because you have that added layer of detailing and more articulation. Don't get me wrong, these are great, and I've loved these figures forever, but part of me kind of feels like, you know, the benefit of going up is that all of a sudden you get these crazy giant figures like this one here. And when I say giant, this thing is giant. You know, for example, here is another Venom figure, and this is actually one of the smaller Marvel Legends Venom figures. This is actually the Venom from the Null King in Black 2-pack, and which is making reuse of the Sonyverse Venom figure, you know, which was originally a Walgreens exclusive, but then was later released last year as a part of Let There Be Carnage. So this is a smaller Venom figure, still much larger than your average Marvel Legends. But look at the size of the Gamerverse Venom. It's gigantic. It's ridiculous. Look at that. It's so crazy. It's so cool. This is kind of like the Venom figure I've always wanted as a little kid. And, or as a teenager. Venom wasn't around when I was a little kid. Okay, so there's one figure that would, even, I want to say it would scale nice next to him, but even still, it's small. The recent Carnage figure from Let There Be Carnage in Marvel Legends, I thought this figure was big. I mean, just look at that. I thought this was huge. Next to Gamerverse Venom, it's completely dwarfed. That's so crazy. In some of my past reviews of certain Marvel characters in the Marvel Legends line, you know, whether it was Venom or the Incredible Hulk or like Cable, you know, I've always made mention that, you know, if you're a comic book reader, you know, some artists would interpret some of these characters as very larger than life. You know, there were some artists that portray the Hulk or even Venom as like being the size of a house. And in this case, it literally is. This thing is huge. And I do have a Spider-Man figure on hand. This is the only one I had on my table. This was from the retro carded line. You know, it's about the average height of a normal Spider-Man figure. Again, look at that. Spider-Man just comes up to his crotch. It's ridiculous. This is a beast of a figure. And it makes me want Hasbro to just like upscale all of their action figures. So with this figure being as large as it is, it does have some weight to it. In terms of the articulation, we'll take a look at that now. The head, you know, it's just on a ball joint. It's very simple, which I kind of feel is a downside. I kind of feel like if you have a figure this large, you should just give it as much articulation as you can. You know, it doesn't have any more or less articulation than a figure, you know, half of its size. It has butterfly joints, which thankfully move pretty smooth. Arms rotate like a normal figure. Bicep swivel. Clean pinless design for the double jointed elbows. Articulated wrists. And don't forget, there is the option of swapping out for fists. There's an ab crunch here. You can hear it ratcheting. And then there's also a diaphragm cut beneath the breast line. Does it swivel at the waist? There is no waist swivel, unfortunately. So if you want to swivel it, you're going to have to do that through the diaphragm. And mine doesn't want to twist as smoothly as I'd like, which is unfortunate. The legs kick up. They kick out, not as far as I'd like. And then there's articulation, or is thigh cut here. Leg bend, cut mid-calf, and then articulate ankles and toes. As I'm handling this figure, the size of it, it's about the same size as a Marvel. I think they're like 9 inches. They're like 9 or 10 inches. It's what's called the Olympus line. They're kind of like the oversized figures that you'd find like at Walmart or Walgreens. They're slightly smaller than the 12-inch Titan Heroes. So this figure feels like it's about the same height as an Olympus Hasbro action figure. But the only thing difference is that it has articulation. But yeah, this is a beautiful figure. The detailing is amazing. Look at the texture on the surface of his skin. You know, it looks like the symbiote ooze. You know, if you've played the game, you know this is pretty much a perfect representation of the character model from the video game. And with the addition of the cool head, and then the extra arm piece, which hopefully is easy to swap out. Yeah, you can see right here, this figure is a beast. This is one of the best figures I've reviewed this year, and I know it's partially because I'm probably shocked by the size of it, but you know, it's spectacle. This figure is nothing but spectacle. It's amazing. So if I haven't sold you yet on this figure, you know, just give it a look-see. You know, but I do guarantee you that it won't disappoint. It's a little on the pricey side, yes, but you get a lot of bang for your buck, and it's a nice, beautiful rendition of a very beloved Marvel superhero. All right, so with that being said, let's wrap this one up. Once again, my name is Lou. If you're new to my channel, welcome. If you are a returning viewer or subscriber, thank you so much for your continued support. I greatly appreciate it. So until the next video, be safe, take care of yourself, buy lots of toys, and most importantly, be happy. And I'll see you at the next one. All right, later.